Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Researchers on a Mission Radio. I'm your host here tonight, John.
I am. And how is everybody and you?
We're doing good. Everyone's doing good.
We have an amazing show, as everyone knows, but as you know, Joe, why don't you go ahead and introduce her? We got straight from the European Union, across the pond. I believe she lives in Belgium right now. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, in Brussels.
Yes, and joining us is Miss Melanie Vritchen. How are you tonight, Melanie? Well, early this morning, rather.
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. It's we are very excited to have you tonight. We're very familiar with your work. And go ahead, John.
I was just saying off air, if it wasn't for people such as Melanie and who me and you just spoke to a week and a half ago, to Dr. Rodney Kilt coming on at this time, there would be no way that people in America would be getting this kind of information. And that's why I think it's just as important for the American research to get to the European Union. Just like you were even speaking about having some sort of daytime show here so it gets to the European Union prime time. You know, I think it's very important. And thank God for things like the internet now, where we're able to connect one side of the world to the other. And we are very grateful for that, very grateful for the station, and very grateful for you, Melanie. Real quick, though, Joe, don't you have a couple of things you got to say?
Well, there is a lot going on. But in regards to Miss Melanie, what she's going to be speaking about this evening, she's going to be speaking a lot of things that we don't even hear spoken of in our country of America here. She's going to be telling you a lot of interesting facts that will definitely touch base with a lot of you that have to do with our day-to-day lives and things that are occurring right in front of your faces that you may not even be aware of. These are facts. These are all very interesting things she will be saying, and we should be paying very close attention. I'm very grateful to have her here. It's very early in the morning for her, but this is the word that we're trying to get out, and it's all part of the research we're trying to bring. With that said, John, I just would really love to just hop in here and just get right to it.
Well, before we do, we got to remind everybody that this is the world's largest listener-supported network. And if it wasn't the world's largest listener-supported station run by civilians, it'd be in corporate hands. And it is only because it is run by civilians do we get this free flow of ideas. And we need you, the listeners, to continually help us keep this station going out of corporate hands by hitting the donate button now. And there's one more special prize that comes for people who donate $100 or more. Go ahead, Joe. What is that?
Well, if you donate $100 or more, you will get the full seed pack. It's a complete kit that will allow you to. It has over 34,000 different non-GMO seeds. This kit will come with everything you need for producing water, for filtering the water, for proper cultivation. It comes with survival guides. As we've even joked about before, how thorough this is, John. It even comes with the Boy Scout manual, and that really includes everything in itself.
Yes, so much more. A DVD with a bonus, just so much. Survival guides. I mean, like you said, it has everything you really need to start over. 54 varieties of seeds, 34,000 that could last up to 25 years if frozen. But anyway, that's what we get. That's on top of helping the station. But Absolutely. As you were saying, Joe, we wanted to jump right into this because we are speaking to someone who is very important. She lobbies the European Union in an organization, the same one that we mentioned briefly when we spoke on a different channel 10 days ago, the European Union Coalition Against Covert Harassment. And Melanie Vritchen works there, the UCASH as it's known, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And so, what's the other one? Can you tell the listeners too about the ICAT?
Yes. There are actually two organizations, the International Center Against Abuse of Covert Technologies, that's ISAACT, and which exists already for some time, about 3 years. We founded it about 3 years ago. And then there's indeed the European Coalition Against Covert Harassment, ucatch.org, which we founded officially in Stockholm in June of this year. So, we're very young as an organization. We had already been working together as a group for some time before, but considering we are so young, we have actually already achieved quite a lot of things. So the European Coalition Against Covert Harassment is in fact committed to raising awareness to the legal systems as well as the medical and scientific community to the crime of illegal biomedical and weaponry research committed on citizens in the European Union and beyond. So that's our mission. And because in fact we have this is what we're doing with ISAC, with the with the International Center Against the Abuse of Covert Technologies. We have established a three-phase protocol to test people that do think that they have not been non-consensually implanted, to provide them with evidence. And these complaints, John, have risen so exponentially. We have so many people in America and in the European Union that, and also in other continents, in fact, and this is really a global problem, that come to us and because they have symptoms of, symptoms that are generally associated with electronic terrorism, and want us to test them. So out of this, because we have so many people that turn to us that want us to help them providing evidence that this crime has been done to them. As this has risen so exponentially, we decided that we needed to found a European association, UCATCH, to lobby, in fact, as you said, the European institutions and in particular the European Parliament to what we would like to achieve is actually to have EU legislation created to protect our citizens from these kinds of abuses.
Go ahead, Joe.
What is the determination of the organization? Do you plan on going worldwide? Are your intentions to reach the whole group of the human race as a whole? Because these are interesting things in this world that we're going through now with the internet and especially cell phone use, that these are all things that we are taking for granted, and it's just soon enough that it's just going to be completely a part of our civilization altogether.
Yes, correct. It's certainly
where do you see your organization going in regards to the growth of technology?
Well, I mean, we focus obviously on the European Union, but we raise awareness for this problem because it's a global problem. So, generally, on an international basis, but the lobbying part, lobbying the EU institutions and especially the European Parliament, we do, we focus on the European Union, of course. And to say that, actually, I have some important news, is that we have just asked for, we had already been there once, there was a preliminary meeting in the European Parliament already, and now we are asking for a hearing, in fact, in front of the respective the parliamentary committee that is dealing with these kinds of issues, which is the Committee for Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs. It's called the LIBE Committee. And what we would like to achieve, and that's very important, is that we will get a hearing in front of the committee members to expose, in fact, the data that we have collected over years. This is, via a testing process. I will come to this in a moment. This is what we did with ISAC. The two organizations work together in collaboration, and I'm actually part of both of them. So what we have done just this week is that we delivered, sent an official request to the European Parliament for us to get this hearing and expose this issue, and also the objective data that we have been collecting over years. And what we have included in this, and this is what we would ultimately like to achieve, is actually already a proposal for a law to bring these kind of, abuses, this weaponry that is tested on European citizens, and beyond, to an end. And in fact, the law says, I'm just going to read this to you, it's concerning weapon systems that are operating on new physics principle used to torture or inflict other cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment, including but not limited to electronic weapons, electromagnetic weapons, magnetic weapons, directed energy weapons, geophysical weapons, wave energy weapons, frequency weapons, genetic weapons, scalar weapons, psychotronic weapons, chemtrail, aerosol weapons, implant weapons, nanotechnology weapons, and high-frequency active auroral high-altitude, ultra-low-frequency weapons, and information technology weapons. So what we're going to demand in this law is that in the European Union, these kinds of weaponaries are going to be prohibited. And our request, if you want to, has just been delivered last week in the European Parliament, and we're now waiting to get actually a date for this hearing to expose our findings and to make this request that this kind of weaponry will be banned in the European Union.
Can you tell us how you got started working for all these people? Because recently there was an event here hosted by another host right here on Revolution Radio called Super Soldier, and they were talking about a project which the CIA says was done with MK Ultra, mind control, and basically Manchurian candidates, people being programmed to kill and not have feeling or remorse or not even know what they're doing. Can you tell us if there's any of that going on in the European Union, and how you got your start in this whole process of lobbying the Parliament?
Yes, that is certainly true. I mean, the MK Ultra program, we were told that after this was exposed in the 70s, that this program was shut down. Well, we have numerous indications and actually proof that that is not the case. And what actually happened is that the only thing that happens is that the technology got more and more advanced, and we're talking nanotechnology now. How did I personally get started in this? Is that in 2008 I underwent surgery for something completely different. I wanted children at the time, and I was told I had a fibroid in my uterus, which is not something, it's not dangerous, it was benign, but I was told that if I want children, I better take that out. And so I did, and I did, get pregnant shortly afterwards. I have a little boy of 4 years of age, and but what happened after that, when I came, back from the hospital, my body started extruding foreign material, which is very bizarre. To cut a long story short, I then did my own research because, the doctors were not very helpful. They didn't know what this was, and, they couldn't really help me. So instead I started to do my own research to actually find out, what this was. And I fell onto the report of an American toxologist who's called Dr. Hildegard Stenninger. And who had patients with this kind of symptoms that their body was extruding foreign material, and she analyzed this under the microscope and actually and studied this quite extensively and found out that this was a nanotechnology that once it's in your body, it self-assembles and auto-replicates in your body to create what like a complex system of wiring. So it's basically a technology that roboticizes the human being. So this is obviously a terrible crime, and this technology, we usually know it under Morgellons, commonly we call it Morgellons, but the official name for it is smart dust technology, and it's a technology that was developed and financed by DARPA. So when I found this out, well, it's obviously terrible because it totally destroys your life.
We're getting a little feedback.
Yeah, she's breaking up a little bit.
Melanie, you're still with us? We're gonna retry our guest. In the meantime, Joe,
try
why
to call
don't you
her
tell
back.
the listeners of what's happening next week?
Well, next week we have a few interesting guests coming in, and John. But before we lead into that, she was discussing just now Morgellons, and that's been a hot topic here in the States as well. And the hot part of that topic has been whether or not it's even existent. Here in the States, this is something that's still argued and debated daily, if it's even in actual occurrence. It's certainly frowned upon when spoken about in the professional world. And we're going to try to see if Miss Melanie could bring some light to it and try to help us all understand how this could be a little more relevant in today's world.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are making very, very large claims to this Morgellons, and unfortunately, when the people are making claims and statements to these, it's usually having a large impact and directly affecting their health, obviously. And there's very few doctors who can take this serious. There's very little that can be done about it, apparently. But sure enough, these people are making claims that there are fibers coming out of their bodies and causing all kinds of terrible, distraught ailments that we really, really should be finding out what this is all about.
I completely agree. We're still here having a little issues. We're going to try once here again. She's going to come back. She has been ready.
No, that's fine. I mean, everyone at home, please understand. Miss Melanie Vritchen is working with us here. It's very early in the morning for her.
It's actually 4:23 a.m. for her.
Yikes.
Yes,
Yikes.
In Brussels, Belgium. That's where she is calling.
And that's a large difference from where you are in LA.
Live, yeah.
She's been doing a lot of good work. She's originally from Germany, and she's since moved on to Brussels, and she's really trying to do a lot of good work out there that people really need to pay attention to. It would be beneficial for people to tune in. The UCACH, which is spelled EUCACH.org, is an excellent place for you to try to do a little of your own legwork and research to see what she's talking about.
That's right. And the other one, there was one more website.
Yeah, it's pronounced ISACT. It's ICAACT.org, which is another excellent place to go for great information. Melanie and others have been really trying to spread this word of phenomenal research that's going on. There needs to be a lot more private organization research that works for the people, at least delivering the facts to the people. All too often these days, a lot of the private sector work, it's still contracted by government and other agencies that do not want results spread. It's usually not beneficial to have an organization look into such matters with the intention on just spreading the truth. It's not a beneficial thing here in the States, where capitalism is king. So we're still trying to get a hold of Miss Melanie now.
Yeah, she's actually just sent an instant message that she is going to be calling us from a different line. So if everyone just hangs tight, we'll be right back with Miss Vritchen. But God, this is a very important topic. It's something that's not really touched on upon. All the things she was saying, such as Melanie, you're back.
Hello, Miss Melanie. Are you with us? No, we still don't have her yet.
Yes, we do. We do. Melanie. Your audio. You're connected, but your audio is coming in and out a little staticky. Can you try to speak a little more?
While we try to work that out. We hear you.
You're coming in broken up, Melanie.
Again, I apologize for everyone at home. We normally switch away and hop to another topic or take some calls, but we find it very beneficial to try to get Miss Melanie back on the phone. She stayed up very late for us, and she has really good information that we are going to divulge. She's been making her plea within the European Unions, and a lot of their findings have now been passed through to the European Parliament in hopes of drawing some attention and having a lot of these activities done. But John, with that said, more often than not these days, I am all too often hearing the word nanotechnology. And nanotechnology seems to be everywhere. It's not just limited to our cell phones and computers.
Absolutely, and this is a very, very important topic now, and here's why. If everyone knows what Moore's Law is basically in 18 months you can double the size or double the capacity of what you can hold in the same area of with regards to technology. So, for instance, if in one gigabyte in this certain area, 18 months from now it'll be 2, and so on and so forth. This is why we have such a technological huge boom. I remember the first time I purchased a flash drive, it was $29.99 for a 256 megabyte, and now you're seeing like 1 tetrabyte, pass for $50, and it's insane. And you're right, this technology doesn't just spread to what's in our hands or what we see. There have been rumors going around that sometimes an injection of some sort may contain things that are microscopic, that are engineered. As a matter of fact, Stan Romanek, this is unrelated, but this has to do with nanotechnology. He claimed in one of his implants, and he has photographs of this, when it was removed, he had it analyzed, and there were microscopic gears and microscopic circuit chips the size of viruses. I mean, that small.
You're absolutely right. I mean, this nanotechnology, they have nanocomputers. They're computers the size of the tip of a pin that have the processing capabilities of more than your home computer. I mean, tenfold on that. It's really the limit. It's way beyond nanotechnology for storage at this point. They are working on nanotechnology to be injected into the body in hopes of targeting certain cells or cancerous areas, things of this nature, to try to just fight it directly on, if you will. It's not just in the medical field. It's not just in the technological field, as Miss Melanie was touching on. She's also saying that it's used in the weaponry. I don't know if you people at home heard the limits that they're not allowed to go to, but she just rambled off 20 or 30 some odd weaponry factors. I didn't even know we had so many weapons available. That's just a staggering amount. That the document that they released, where the limits are supposed to be put, I mean, even chemtrails were mentioned in that, if I'm not mistaken. And that's something still debated if that's even factual or not. I understand it doesn't have to be fact to include it in there. I know the last time I was in the Pacific Northwest, I saw signs that it was a Bigfoot area. It was a Sasquatch area. There's really no confirmation that exists, but nonetheless, they're being precautionary over the matters. People are paying attention. And especially with this nanotechnology, the sky is the limit. We are just in its infancy, or at least in the public. We're just now seeing the infancy of the nanotechnology field, and it's growing at a staggering rate. It's being applied in every area of technology, and in the medical field, in the military field. Nanotechnology is the future. That's where things are going to be happening. These days of large mainframe computers, they will be going to the wayside soon enough. And John, as you mentioned, you could put a 1,000 gigs into the tiniest little thing available. I mean, finding 200 and some 256 megabytes. I don't even think you could find a card that small anymore.
I know, you're absolutely right. Looks like we might be connected to Melanie now. Melanie, can you hear us? Melanie.
We do not hear Melanie yet.
Sadly, it shows that we are connected to her.
Yeah, it shows that we're connected.
Can you hear me?
Now we hear something. Some static.
Yeah, I hear you, but it's like
No, Melanie, we can't hear you.
I do not.
Yes.
So, John, while we're trying to get a hold of her, tell us about the last adventure you were on when you were at Contact in the Desert. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was an amazing event. I actually went there to cover it for Third Season Moon, but nonetheless, I went there to cover it, so I didn't get to see very much other than what the DVD seminars are for afterwards, but it was just amazing to see that many like-minded people at such a beautiful location that has such history to it. One thing I really wanted to see was the Integratron, and that was something built by George Van Tassel, I believe in the 40s or 50s, and that was built according to alien design. Aliens apparently landed by this thing called Giant Rock and told him how to build this certain device, which he believed to be the Fountain of Youth. Now, sadly, he died before it was fully finished. But there's a structure there, and apparently some anomalous activity occurs there. So you combine all of the above, and it's a magical location. And that's why they hold various retreats there. And I think they chose a great place. The only thing I would have done differently, the time of the year. Don't do something that's meant to be outdoor in the summer, in the midsummer near Palm Springs. Melanie, are you with us?
Yes, I hope so.
We got you back, finally.
I do hear her.
Okay, yeah, I changed the computer, so...
Okay, good.
No worries.
We're back. Go ahead, Joe. You had something great to ask. Melanie, we were talking about how important nanotechnology is in our world and where it has gone.
True. Yeah, so I was just saying that, this is how myself, I got... involved with the topic because, I was victimized by nanotechnology, by smart dust technology. So, I didn't really want to, lie down as a victim. I actually wanted to do something about that because it's just a horrendous crime, and there are thousands of victims of these new technologies, in fact. So this is how I got myself involved in this, and then I found other people that were thinking likewise, like, Dr. Ronnie Kilde and, the lawyer, Dr. Melanie Vritchen, and a Swedish activist, Magnus Olsson, all the people that were working together now in UCATCH. So because we're talking about nanotechnology, that's indeed correct. In fact, this technology is so small that you cannot see it on the medical imagery that we currently have available. So, and this brings us to ISAACT, because we have in the European Center, in the International Center Against Cover Technologies, we have developed a 3-phase testing protocol to actually provide these victims with evidence. And what we do, and we have scanned until now really many people and provided them with that evidence, is that people that think that this could have happened to them, that they could have been non-consensually implanted with these remote influencing technologies. And what we see is that the people that usually come to us, that come up positive in the scans, that in the radio frequency scans that we're organizing,
generally had either surgery before the symptoms started. And the usual symptoms that they all complain about is, artificial auditory effects, electric shock sensations in various extremities of the human body, experience of needle sensation in specific body locations, frequent heat sensations in specific areas of the human body, frequent muscle spasms associated with electronically induced contraction. You could very easily describe this as torture, and experience of brain stimulation, as well as sensation of extreme fatigue. That's what they all have in common. They generally complain all about these symptoms. In addition, with other symptoms, sleep deprivation, perceived dream manipulation, heart fluttering without previous diagnosis of cardiac abnormality, seizures without prior warning or apparent reason, incoherent speech, and lack of limb coordination. So the people that we test are in general, they had surgery before or had vaccines, especially flu vaccines, because we have a number of people that I never had surgery, but they always come up positive in the upper arm. So, and the only thing they had there was the flu vaccine. So what we do in general to provide these victims with evidence, because usually when they go to their physician and they complain about these kind of symptoms, and sometimes even mention that they think this could have happened to them, they usually diagnose immediately with some kind of delusional disorder. So what we do is we have developed with ISAACT, a three-phase testing protocol, which means that people that think that they could have been victimized by remote influencing technologies can come to us, and we do it free of charge with a full body scan.
That's incredible. That's what you need to do, because that's the problem here. A lot of people are making outrageous claims, but they don't have the finances to look into this or the insurances. So you do make these tests for people who feel they might fall into these categories. You do offer all these tests to find out if this is the case?
We do that for free, so that people can contact us. Well, we do regular scanning events. We just had one last month in the UK, which was very successful. But they're announced on the ISAACT website. But otherwise, people can write to us, and we will scan their body free of charge for radio frequency emission. Once, for the people that come up positive, we usually ask them to help us provide medical imagery in the form of a CT scan or an MRI scan, for example, but knowing that with nanotechnology, it's almost, with the current medical imagery that we at the moment have available, to detect nanotechnology is almost impossible. Usually you cannot detect that on current medical imagery that we have available. But sometimes when it's old technology, and when I say old technology, it's basically, the implants are like the size of a grain of rice, which seems very small. But, nowadays they're really down to the nano sizes, so you cannot detect that usually on a CT scan. But sometimes we still do. So what we ask them is then to provide us with this medical imagery to see if we can match that up, which means that at the specific anatomical focus point where we could measure the emission, if we see something what we call an identified bright object, which is basically an implant, to see if that corresponds, to match that up. And then the third phase, and we've just done this in here in Belgium actually, in a research facility with a Faraday cage that I found, is that we scan people that came up positive in the preliminary scan, again in the controlled environment, in the Faraday cage. And what I can say is that all of the people that we scanned previously, that came up positive in the preliminary scan, when we scanned them in the Faraday cage, they also came up positive in the Faraday cage.
Melanie, if I may ask, for the people at home, can you please let us know why the Faraday cage is used in the process?
Yes, we do that because, in the Faraday cage you should not have, normally any form of radiation. And what we do, why we do this is to exclude actually that the emission could come from an outside source.
Also, Melanie, can you tell us what you think the objectives behind such harassment is? I mean, what are the means? What are they trying to achieve by doing such things?
Well, it is, this technology needs over complete control, over the person. They're also doing, it's also for studies, it's illegal brain research in view of the artificial intelligence roboticizing people, trying to, not trying, actually once it's in your body, you actually need to complete control over the person. Somebody can really control you like a robot, from a distance, remotely. And maybe I should mention that, implants are nothing new. They exist at least since the 50s. And maybe we should tell our listeners that there is actually a very famous test, that was an experiment that was done by Dr. José Delgado, who implanted, who was, at Yale University actually, implanted in 1964 already a fighting bull to actually control him remotely like a toy, which means that before the bull was implanted, it was aggressive. It was, charging the red towel in a bullfight. And once he was implanted, Dr. Delgado could, went into the arena with remote control, and once the bull was charging, he could just push the button, and the bull was immediately pacified. So he could prove with this that actually, the bull could be controlled via this electrode in his brain, like a toy, basically. And he did this on animals, but it is also possible with humans. So it leads to complete control over the person, and then it is also illegal weaponry testing. So what we must say is that the majority of these victims of these remote influencing technologies, so it's certainly illegal biomedical research, it's in view of creating artificial intelligence, but then there are also many of these victims, a very high percentage actually are abused in directed energy weapons tests. So, which I can tell you, it is torture. So it is to test weapons illegally and their efficiency on citizens. And the most shocking, I think, fact is that when we do these, radio frequency scans, in fact, that we do free of charge, we have people from all kinds of ages, all walks of life, and from the very young to the very, really the elderly, all ages, and we have several children that came up positive in our scans, and that were victimized by these remote influencing technologies, which is an outrage.
That is an outrage. Now, you're saying these tests, these preliminary tests that were done with the bull, that was in the 50s, you're saying?
That was proven possible, I think it was in 1964, so in the
1964.
60s.
Yeah, that is rather remarkable. Decades before, I mean, even today we're still debating if this is a possibility. And this is almost 50 years ago.
Absolutely. So,
that is absolutely remarkable. Now,
yes,
with these implants that you're referring to, who is implanting? Who is receiving implants, and who is doing this implanting?
Well, we can only say that there are only two groups that actually have access to this kind of technology, which is of course the military, because this is military technology, and the secret services. So it is, part of a large project. Actually, I call it the transhumanist agenda. And the problem is that the general public is not very aware of this. So it was, I mean, as we just said, the implants are nothing new. They exist, certainly since the 50s already. But this kind of, illegal brain research and behavior research and weaponry research, in fact, usually it used to be done really on groups like the elderly, psychiatric patients, single women, so groups that were, considered like, more vulnerable groups. But what we see now in our tests, in our scans that we do, is that now it is anybody. It's really the general population that's targeted. And as I said, we have several small children that have been implanted, non-consensually, for example, when they went to a dentist, because or had some kind of surgery. It's really very widespread, and now it's really anybody can.
Do you think when we're referring to young children, which most people can relate to? When we're speaking of young children who have possibly had surgeries or operations and now have implants, do we think that the doctors performing the surgery or during that operation process that someone was present and aware it was going in, or are these implants being injected without doctors even knowing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, let's say, for example, the children. We have many that actually were implanted when they went to the dentist. So there it's absolutely clear that the dentist knew exactly what he or she was doing. Actually the research on children is particularly, it's something they're particularly interested in, because what you were just saying, John, that that you went to the Super Soldier Summit and heard about MK Ultra, and that there were these programs that they were actually creating sleeper assassins. To be able to do that, to create such a mind controlled sleeper assassin. The brain actually needs to dissociate. You have to create different personalities so that, when this, when actually, the sleeper assassins kill somebody, that they have no recollection of what they did, of this crime. Well, it is known that the mind, under torture, the easiest to dissociate is actually before 3 years of age. So what we have in our tests, revealed is that we had very, very young children, this kind of age group, but we even had babies that were implanted at birth when they were in the hospital. So the victims get younger and younger, and we need
You've actually found a case with babies?
Yes, indeed. There is actually, at the moment, probably I can't say too much about it, but there is actually in California a case that is at the moment, I think it's a Superior Court of California that is actually at the moment, in the court, where the father himself is a lawyer, and so the whole family has been implanted, so father, mother, and the two little boys, and according to their parents, it was at birth in the hospital. So I can't say too much, but for the first time, actually, the the lawsuit seems to go pretty well for the victims for the first time, because until now these kind of cases have always been thrown out. Well, this is not happening at the moment, so we're very pleased to see that the judge seems to be more, siding by the victims. And of course, if this case can be won, and as I said, it involves two very young children that were implanted at birth in the hospital, that would certainly be a major step forward, because it would create like a pre-assessment, a case that has actually been won.
Now, all of the individuals that you come across with implants, do all of these people fall into the category of possible Magellans, or is there just a vague similarity between the two?
No, the people that we just test, we do have Morgellons victims, but the difference is that Morgellons is really a very complete systemic system that is self-assembles and auto-replicates in the body and creates a complex system of wiring. So it basically covers the whole body with nano mesh. That's really the most invasive technology that you can be a victim of.
Melanie, do you know if there's any American counterpart to UCASH, or of any sort of organization that exists here in the United States that does what you do?
Well, actually the International Center Against the Use of Covered Technology is more of an American, association, because in fact it was started by a licensed physician who, by the name of Dr. John Paul, whose, I think, fiance fell victim to this, and then he just started to develop this new, if you want to, method of forensics, the detection, because as we're talking about nanotechnology, there is no medical imagery that can prove that. So it is more, of an American association, in fact. But we also, have ISAAC Europe, who is a gentleman who's called Lars Dortgard, who's in Denmark. So, but ISAAC is, let's say, it's working, in America, but also in Europe. And then there's also, they're not doing scans, they do not do, radio frequency scans as we do, but there's also, the Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance, the association, by a gentleman called Derek Robinson, and he is more, concentrated on actually, raising awareness for these problems and working on the legal side as well, to create appropriate legislation to protect citizens from these kinds of abuses.
Now, before we're in a few minutes, Miss Melanie, we're going to be heading into a break. But I had a question I really wanted to get to. In regards to these implants, are we finding that they are receivers, or do they also transmit information as well?
They do both. There are little micro computers, so they send and receive information. What we must say is that there are different kinds of technologies. For example, the microchips that we put in our pets, the cats and dogs. Mm-hmm. And I would not advise people to do that, because actually it is proven that they cause cancer. So we're murdering our pets, if you want to. But this is a passive technology. Let's say if the dog gets a stray or so, you can remotely send a signal to it, and it will resend the position of the dog. But otherwise, it's a passive technology. The chips that we're testing for, the implants that we're testing for, are active technologies. So they're constantly active, 24 hours round the clock, and which means that the victim is constantly basically tortured, in pain, and they do send and receive continuously, information. So the human body is actually, can use to store information and data.
We're coming to our first break. Go ahead, Joe.
We'll be back shortly. Thank you for joining us, Researchers on a Mission Radio, with Miss Melanie Vritchen. We'll be back shortly. Hang in there. We'll be right back. Hello, hello. This is your host, Joe Kiernan, with Researchers on a Mission Radio, co-hosted tonight with Dr. J, John Elias.
That's right.
And we are joined with Miss Melanie Vritchen from Brussels. She is filling us in on incredible research and information in regards to nanotechnology and implants and all these other fantastic work the organizations are doing. It's really overwhelming, John.
She's working on the cutting edge of technology, but sadly, rather than the technology being used for the good of mankind, it is actually being used by the power-hungry people to harass them, to fear-monger them, in other words. And as Melanie was saying before, that, you know, as I was mentioning the Super Summit, and there was these Manchurian candidates there who admitted to being raised to perform tasks, that's what's being done with this technology. This sometimes could be as small as a virus. Virus-sized gears, I've heard technology go like that. Right before we went to break, Melanie, Joe, go ahead. Ask her what you wanted to ask her right before we went to break.
Well, right before we bring Melanie in, folks, I just wanted to remind everyone here on Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, this is the largest listener-supported station. We are run by donations. And if you could please go to the website and post a donation, it would help continue the efforts and keep things going. And you'll also see for a $100 donation, you get this very, very large seed pack. It's really all-inclusive, everything, tomatoes, cabbage, cucumbers, radishes, jalapenos, down to all the essentials of beans, all the herbs and plants. You get over 34,000 seeds, and it comes with everything that you'll need to restart and maintain, medical guides, how to build shelters, prepare for disasters, everything that you would need. And everything comes in an all-inclusive bag. They refer to them as bug-out bags. Everything you would need to get going on there. You'll find that on the page for freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio. And, John, if we can, let's see if we have Miss Melanie there. And
we do. Real quick, I just want to remind people that not only are you helping the station for $100 with a donation, you are literally getting 5-fold your money, if not 10-fold. All the ingredients combined, non-GMO seeds, 54 varieties, 34,000 seeds in general. With everything Joe said, I mean, it's just so much stuff. It is definitely worth your value. But nonetheless, yes, Melanie Vritchen, you're with us, right?
Hello, Melanie, are you there?
Yeah.
Melanie, we can hear you. We could see your connection, but we cannot hear you. Are you there? Yes,
I hear.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Melanie, what year did UCash start, and what success has it had recently? Have you been able to lobby the proper people in the government to end certain protocols that would damage people?
Yes. Well, UCatch, has actually just been founded, this year in June. So on the 9th of June in Stockholm. So it's very young as an organization, but we already have quite some success. Especially like in the lobbying with the European institutions, because we have already been working together as a group before we actually, officially, legally established it as a not-for-profit association. So, and this was, personally, I'm quite often in the European Parliament because, I'm attending meetings, especially on human rights. And there was one meeting I attended, which was actually linked to GMO, so GMO food. And after it was actually a film screening, on GMO food. And after there was like a reception where you could actually address, a few of the MEPs. the members of the European Parliament, and so I did, and I talked to a few there. And then what followed is that, I said, well, the film screening was certainly very interesting, but I wanted to make them aware of the problem of non-consensual implantation of European citizens by these remote implanting technologies. So what we did then is, because a few of the MSPs that I knew, we went with, Dr. Ron Kilde, myself, Magnus Olsen, and a few other, colleagues. We went to meet a few members of the European Parliament, especially a person who's an MEP who's called Charles Goerens, and we showed them our findings that we had, actually made this precise act. But I was just explaining that we had uncovered so many, with these radio frequency scans, so many people that had been victimized, provided them with evidence that they had been victimized with these remote influencing technologies, and said that we think that there is really an urgent need for appropriate EU legislation to really protect our citizens from these kinds of abuses. And they agreed, and they then actually suggested that we should make a presentation in front of the, so they obviously took us seriously enough because they suggested that we should urgently request a hearing, in front of the Committee for Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs, what we're just in the process of doing now. And this was, the preliminary meeting was on the 31st of January, so it's not that far, ago, and then we actually established UCATCH, legally only in June, and we have now sent, as I said, our package has, just reached the European Parliament with the official request to get this hearing and to present our results and the data that we have been collecting with ISAACT, in fact, for years. What we included in this, and this is very important, is actually that we did not only want to request a hearing and show our data, we wanted to come up with a proposal for a law already, for a regulation. So, and we have included this now. So now it's, they have received this. So we hope that we will get the hearing still this year. I have been in contact with the chair of the committee, and was told that yes, they have a few meetings, of course, planned, but at the moment the agenda is already very full. So what they will have to do is find us a hole in this agenda for us to present. But we hope that it can still be achieved this year.
With the nanotechnology being applied in such force these days, is it being applied through the use of cell phones to people directly? Is there any correlation between the two in your findings?
Yes, in fact, cell towers certainly, and the wireless system that we have all over, that certainly does play a role. In this, especially as I was saying before, is that this is also illegal, directed energy weapons testing. So, and we strongly suspect that the cell towers are used, in fact, for beaming people. Because we must say that, it's basically when you're implanted, you are, submitted to a radiation 24 hours round the clock, and this is very dangerous for your health. In fact, we know it has been shown that this leads to various fast-growing cancers. And I'm saying this because we had one of an American member of ours, in fact, who was an inventor, or is an inventor, called Bob Boyce. And he actually he had developed a tumor, and he realized that when he was testing some equipment in a Faraday cage, he realized that when he put the detector, the radio frequency detector, to his right shoulder, it always went off. And so what happened is, and that was on a, on the point of his body, a place where he had developed a tumor. So what they did is actually they opened the tumor up, they removed it, and when they did during the operation, they found that within the tumor there was a microchip. So we can just quite safely say that the radiation he was experiencing via this chip actually created the tumor. And so he thought, okay, problem solved, and for a few months the cancer actually went into remission, and he thought the problem was solved, but actually then after 6 months it came back very aggressively on another part of his body, and so again he did the same test. He went into the Faraday cage, and the detector went off again, on the side where the second tumor was located. And again, he had an operation, and again, they found, in the tumor another microchip. So
that's incredible.
And the news that I have now is that, because they took it off, they removed this second microchip as well, that at the moment, his cancer problem is solved. So we can very safely say that this was created by the microchips in his body.
That's incredible. It's very unfortunate, but it's a remarkable finding nonetheless. 20 years ago, or even less, just a decade ago, there was a lot of discussion here in the States regarding the cellular mobile phones. And when they were really becoming popular, there were people who were holding out and saying, no, I'm not interested in getting one of those because they'll cause cancer. You'll end up with a tumor. You'll end up with cancer. And now the word on the street here in the States is that doesn't happen anymore. It's they're safe. It's fine. That was all nonsense talk years ago. It was just doubters and people scared of technology. But that really seems to be the case still, more so than ever before.
Yes, that is not true. I mean, I know that you just interviewed Dr. Ronnie Kilder, my colleague, and she could tell you many more things about that. But what usually happens is that it is, the mobile phones definitely cause cancer or high risk of greater cancer. And just to to say that actually the World Health Organization, and they will only come out with this information if they really have to, said that a microchip is a risk in your body. The radiation that you experience is a risk 3 to develop cancer. So. We know that what usually happens is that, when you get this information that this is not true, is that what Brownie usually calls some board of scientists, by the industry that is, there to actually, calm people down and making these claims that it's all not true and it's totally safe. But it is not. It is a very high risk via this mobile phone. The other thing we should maybe mention, because we're talking about cell towers, is that Jesse Ventura actually last year did one of his episodes of the conspiracy theory on True TV. And he dedicated this to targeted individuals, let's say victims of electronic terrorism, and interviewed a few, members of our group. And what they actually found out in their investigation is that what is also used, to actually to torture people remotely via this directed energy weapons are the Gwen towers. So these are relics actually from the Cold War. and we were told that they were decommissioned, or that they're not in use anymore. But I found it very interesting that they found out that wherever there was a cluster of victims of electronic terrorism, there was also a Gwen Tower very nearby. So these are, and they still exist. And the fact is that, okay, we were told that they're not in use anymore and they are decommissioned. But what actually happens is that the government retains the top of the tower, in fact, and so
Of course.
they're most probably used for actually torturing people remotely.
Now, Melanie, I have a two-part question. Does HARP in Alaska have something to do with this? And also, let's assume that UCASH received all the funding necessary that it needed to accomplish its goals. What is your primary goal, or what is UCASH's primary goals for all the citizens? I mean, ultimately, in a utopia, what would they get? What would everybody get in humanity?
Yes, well, you are indeed correct. HARP has definitely something to do with this. So, as I was saying at the beginning, actually, the law that the proposal, at least for the regulation that we have just submitted to the European Parliament, is concerning weapons systems operating on new physics principles used to torture or inflict cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment. And there's a series of weapons that I have enumerated, and there's also what I said, the high frequency active or high altitude, ultra low frequency weapons, and this is actually the HARP system. The HARP system is a weapon, and it is definitely used for mind control and torturing people. I think that there was actually, I think it was in the 90s, Dr. Nick Bagich, who came to the European Parliament and did a demonstration of actually how HARP works, how HARP system works. And based on this, actually the European Parliament in 1999 issued a resolution, but unfortunately it's only a resolution still, let's say, which is basically a declaration of intent. And in this resolution, they asked for a global ban on any kind of weapons or technologies that enable the manipulation of the human being. Which is what we are asking now, in this proposal for the law that we've just submitted, and also it also included HARP, and it said, in fact, that no further research should be, carried on by HARP, unless the United States allows for European, inspectors to actually, inspect the HARP facility and see what kind of research is actually done there. And, the United States wouldn't allow for this. So, HARP is definitely a big part of it, and we have included it also in our law to actually, ban the use, to harm citizens via the HARP system.
Well, it's no shock to me that HARP is involved, and I'm certainly not shocked that permission was not granted to inspect the facility. They're very, very discreet in their operations, and in just about a month ago or so, I was informed that one of these decommissioned towers that we were just speaking of, I have one about 30 miles away from me.
Oh.
And that really raised my eyebrows for attention, because why would we still be using these? And I was informed the same as you, that they were decommissioned and they're not fully functional, but the government has retained the use of the top part of the towers, the most important part of the tower. And why would we be doing something like this to citizens or to regular folks, just someone not on a military presence. I know that a lot of this was started in regards as a weapon to possibly use elsewhere. But why would we be continuing to do this on children? Why would what do these people have to gain from such a thing?
Well, I think that it's certainly part of the depopulation agenda, because I mean, make no mistakes, these are really weapons of mass destruction. And in fact, not long ago, in July, an investigative journalist, of Russia Today, Daniel Esterlin, interviewed our managing director, Magnus Olsen, and about this technology. It's about this illegal weaponry research and biomedical research, and what we want to achieve. That this kind of technologies and weapons will be prohibited, at least in the European Union. And he finished with the saying that actually these weapons are definitely weapons of mass destruction. So the ultimate goal is certainly depopulation, and that they were that dangerous that actually these kind of new technologies, new weapons are in this century what used to be the atomic bomb in the last one. So
yeah, I would imagine this would end up having more victims in the long run, though.
Yes, so it is certainly depopulation and and control.
I couldn't help but notice, Melanie, several times when we were discussing the topic that you had mentioned that the people in control of such things, you keep using the word torture. Mm-hmm. Now, is it a long-term torture for a lot of these people, just a health torture, or is it a physical pain at times?
Oh, it is absolutely physical pain. It is basically being tasered 24 hours around the clock.
Could they technically, per se, press a button and put pain into somebody?
Yes, correct. So these weapons, in fact, connect to the human nervous system, and via a pulse, that can be applied remotely. You can inflict, extreme pain and suffering. And the thing is that it's also, psychologically very, very distressing, because you never know when you're going to get tortured. It is basically like, tasering the person. You feel electric shock waves going through your body. That is, it is torture. And this totally is against any, well, the thing is, it's very difficult to prove, of course, because it's invisible. But it's definitely against the European Convention on Human Rights.
This technology has such a profound presence. It's a shame we haven't been applying this for the better good of human beings, for possible nanotechnology implants to combat cancerous cells, not to create them. It's a shame that we haven't been moving in that direction. Do you think, Melanie, that this program, whoever, and it sounds like there's many involved, do you think that this program is continuing to grow, or do you think raising enough awareness would cause this program to shut down if it were in fact a black project that wasn't in the public's eye?
Yes, it's most definitely a black project. In fact, the official name of this is Special Access Project. So yes, I think we have a chance to actually stop this. But what we need to do is educate the public, make them aware, of just what is going on. So, and I think well, I certainly hope, and I do think that what the public needs to understand, what we need to understand, is that anybody can become a victim. So next time, actually, that any of your family members or you go to the doctor, you could be part of a scientific experiment that that you're not even told about, or your children, or your mother, or your father, or any. So it is very easy to victimize a person with this kind of technology because because it's nanotechnology now, and all you need is a needle, basically. So I think we can quite safely say that, I mean, how many times when we go to the doctor, we actually got, an injection, not only vaccines, but I mean, it's really not much to it.
So it's possible that some of these implants could be going in through inoculations, through flu shots and things like that?
Yes, they absolutely do. We actually have evidence for this because, as I said, in our radio frequency scans, we usually people that come up positive had a surgery before, but not all of them. We had a few, of these elderly ladies, and when we scanned them, they always came up positive, on their upper arm. And when we asked them, well, did you have anything done there? Did you have an operation or anything? And they said, no, but the only thing that I have done is actually that my GP usually gives me my flu vaccine there. Well, I mean, if it's only positive, on the upper arm, and, they never had a surgery, well, and the only thing they had done is the flu vaccine, and I think we can quite safely say that the implantation of the microchip was done by a flu vaccine.
Now, these microchips that we're speaking of, are you able to see these with the human eye, or do you need a microscope to see them?
No, actually, they're so small. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The nanotechnology, we can, not see them with the human eye.
Can you describe in function what the different implants would do?
Well, actually, you can do whatever, you can control a person's thoughts, read a person's thoughts, implant, erase memory, implant, other memories, then also like, a health problem. It's, as I said, it does create cancer. Many victims have died of a heart attack. Seizures, so it is extremely dangerous for your health. And what people need to understand as well is that it really, once the technology is in your body, it really puts your security and your health, it really jeopardizes it, puts it at grave risk. One example is that, for example, there was here actually a project to put these chips into children, into school children, because they were saying, well, if the children gets lost, or so, and they were trying to sell it to the parents as some increased, let's say, security for their children. So they actually wanted to implant them, and this project was then abandoned because we actually, when it came out that, this information, anybody has information, can, hack into this chip and get the information.
Well, I think we might have lost her temporarily, John.
Yeah, I agree. Melanie's gone, but we are still connected to the station. We are still live on Revolution Radio. We were talking about some really interesting and crazy stuff. Could it be that some powers that be are really harassing these people? I mean, obviously there exists these.
Well, you had mentioned it earlier yourself about the Manchurian candidates, and there were a few cases where we feel that was the case, where the Manchurian candidate process had been put into place, and that was 50 years ago. I could only imagine what we've come to today, and that was such a simple process of mind manipulation. And now we're talking about technology that it's really a press of a button for control and for pain, for so many other things. I mean, it's just I just don't understand why it would be used at all, never mind on the civilian home front. Miss
Exactly.
Melanie, are you with us? Do we have
Yes,
Miss?
I think I'm back.
Yes.
I do hear you.
Okay.
And we do hear you, and we're going to try to get this in again until we lose you. Miss Melanie, before we change the topic, I received a message from a Tim Coughlin in New York, and he was referring to when we were speaking on the inoculations that for a good chunk of time here in the States, there's been quite a lot of speculation amongst the conspiracy community that vaccines and inoculations have had a strong link to autism. Are you finding any of that to be the case?
Yes, I heard it, as well. So also we must say that the number of children suffering from autism has really raised exponentially as well. So we do find that these chips actually have many bad.
Yeah, I think we're having
Melanie, you
technical
still there?
difficulties with her again. All right, everyone at home, please hang tight. We're going to try to get a hold of her. If I could remind everyone, she is calling from Brussels, and it is
right.
quite
It
early
is
in the morning
across the
there.
pond, and it is 5:35 a.m. Mind
You
you
know,
that.
John, she's really driving the nail home on a lot of this stuff. And just to let everyone know, as John mentioned, it's so early in the morning, and the only reason why she's on the program speaking on this topic at such an hour is the passion that she has for it. She knows what she's finding. These aren't speculations, in her opinion, that these are game changers. These are things that we need to know. These are things that we should be outraging about. We are close to being divided amongst each other on people's decisions with what's going on in Syria and chemical weapons used amongst each other. And that's an isolated incident per se. This is something that has no limit. This is something that goes beyond the immediate contact. And we're talking about children here. It's, I mean, anyone, adults, children, just innocent people in general.
And I can't
never mind
get my
in warfare.
mind off this cover of this magazine a few months back, or maybe a couple years back, which showed a vaccine needle, and it showed that in a vaccine you would possibly get like a microchip, and that just goes in line with them trying to chip you all. But Melanie, are you back with us?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we do.
We can actually see you too. That is good. That is excellent. What were we talking? Joe, go ahead and ask her what you're asking.
Oh, well, we were speaking on the possibility of a correlation between the inoculations and autism, and I know that's not something you're working directly on, but could it be could the programs be relative per se in the findings where autism really it's still up in the air. There's so many different degrees and variations of autism and what might be bringing on autism. Some speculate genetics, and there's a great portion of people that are claiming that it's some sort of program through inoculations when the children are young. Do you feel that autism could be a byproduct of inoculations? Or could autism or these symptoms that could be appearing to be autism, could they be a fallout of implants or the process of the implanting?
Well, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but what I can say is that certainly the implants, the implantation has various really severe, health consequences. And, for example, one of these is that we know that it is linked to, Alzheimer's. We also know that it, creates like Parkinson's, seizures, epilepsy that didn't, exist before. So, and that, vaccinations are most definitely one of the ways to actually, chip you. So and we know that the autism rate, especially amongst children, has like risen exponentially. So I could very much imagine that it is linked to that. What we certainly see is that what is going on is a general attack on the immune system.
Sure.
Now, there's been rumors. Jesse Ventura said this. Alex Jones said this, I believe, on George Norrie's show several times. It's been said that there's just a population problem on this planet, that they want to depopulate everybody by 90%. Do you think these are means to do such things? Is that why they're doing that?
Yeah, certainly, because as I said before, I mean, like, implanting somebody with remote influencing technologies is has extreme severe consequences on your health, and it can go, like from heart attacks to strokes, to seizures, to fast-growing cancers, diabetes. Certainly, I mean, really, really, it brings extreme ill health. So, and it certainly reduces your lifespan. So, for example, you can also murder somebody remotely. For example, in my case, but that is the case for especially Morgellons victims, not all of them, but in my case, there is actually an electrical bending tape, a nano electrical bending tape that forms in my throat, and it can be remotely tightened. It constructs the windpipe. So it's totally torture, because I could like die, any second, while I'm talking. And no doctor would touch it, of course. Although I had actually a few that admitted it was there, but nobody will, operate you there. So and we know that it has killed several people, remotely, in just constructing the windpipe. So it is certainly, the aim is that to reduce people's health, lifespan, test also what kind of disease you will develop, and remotely assassinate people. So, I mean, the goal is certainly depopulation, one of the goals.
So it is believed that people have died in results of these processes?
Yes, indeed. Actually, there's a research group that is called the Morgellons Research Group, and I'm in contact there with, the secretary is called, Catherine Augustine, and they actually have, several people have died via these electrical bending tapes that form in their throat, and in constructing the windpipe remotely, people have been killed. They died by suffocation, and they keep the death toll. It's very macabre, but they have a list with. Because family members came to them and basically that one of the loved ones was murdered via this strangulation method. So I know for a fact that several people have died from this.
That is terrible to hear. It really should be an eye-awakening experience for a lot of people to hear what you're saying. And I really hope it does find a lot of people. Go ahead, John. What you saying?
I really hope the American public wakes up. I hope the world wakes up to what's going on and what they can do. And Melanie, I wanted to tell the listeners what's new, what's coming for you in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years. Where do you see yourself? Where do you see this research going? And what do you see as the ultimate solution happening with your goals?
Well, I mean, one of the goals is for me that, first of all, this issue to be recognized, that there is appropriate legislation to be created to, totally ban this kind of weapons and technologies. At least their very negative use on citizens, as a threat to humanity. So this is my personal goal, but I think it's shared with everybody that is in UCATCH, working for UCATCH. So this is what we want to achieve. Then what we usually do, and we just had one in the United Kingdom, a scanning meeting where there were 15 people from, they usually come from all over, the place, different countries, and we scanned them and we have 15 positives. So that means that 100% of the members of the public that we scanned were positive. So that this means that it's, this global transhumanist agenda is obviously implanted at a much faster rate than we think. So
100%.
100%. So 15 people came and 15 were positive. So
That's
that
incredible.
Yeah. So what we want to achieve is, of course, raise awareness for this, bring this, this abuse to an end, and then what we also included, actually, on my, on my initiative, is that what we want to achieve in this law is that, of course, treatment for the victims have to be provided so that their health, they can be fully restored. We know that there are, detoxification is, for example, because, this nanotechnology in your body is extremely toxic, so it's basically a toxic condition, can help.
This is really something that people should pay attention to immediately.
Yes, if what people are doing to other people is happening, that goes beyond the laws of genocide or what is allowed by the UN as humane treatment. That is just ridiculous. Ms. Vritchen, are you back with us?
Yeah. I think
we got you back. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish what you were saying before you got lost. Yeah.
Yeah, so what we want to achieve is that a global ban of, and at least in the European Union, on any kind of, weapons or technology that enabled the manipulation of the human being, and for the victims that we do, we have scanned and that are positive, where we have the evidence that they have been non-consensually consented. We would like to achieve, of course, you cannot say justice if. This is such a horrendous crime. This is really a crime against humanity. It's a war crime. But what we would like to achieve is that, there is some kind of compensation paid to the victims, and what we also included in this proposal for the law that we've just submitted to the European Parliament is that, all kind of treatments for the victims to recover their health is covered, basically.
What's sad in this current world is the way we get our technology is through military spending. If we wouldn't be having our iPhones and our just all our luxuries that are electronics if it wasn't for military spending to kind of rush that. Now, do you believe in these theories that say that we have to grow as a people in the sense that we have to grow as a consciousness and start treating others as we want to be treated ourselves and stop this tribal warfare before we can actually handle such technology? Because in some ways you could look at it as, oh wow, the kids found the matches and they'll blow themselves up, and that's what's gonna happen if you got a few power hungry people over 95 or 99% of the rest of the world. Don't you agree? And what would you have to say to that?
Yes, I certainly agree. And what we must always say, is, like we focus here on really the negative aspect, of this technology, and it's certainly, used against humanity at the moment. But we should not forget that it would actually be possible to use this technology in a very positive way, beneficial for the human being. So. For example, you get all the diagnosis, via the technology. I don't see any problem with, implants, for example, like pacemakers that are there to actually repair or to assist deficient body parts, and prolong life rather than to how it is used now to reduce people's lifespan and to make people sick. So there is, we should not, technology is neutral. It can be used, either for good things or for bad things. So unfortunately now it is used really for very, very bad and evil purposes. So it could be used for many things, really beneficial to humanity. So also, what actually has been found out recently is we are in contact with Professor Meil, Konstantin Meil, who's really the expert on scalar wave technology, because scalar wave is this hidden technology by Nikola Tesla, in fact. The scalar waves, it plays a big part in this. And he actually, our legal advisor, Dr. Henning Vritchen, just interviewed him, and he actually explained that they have found out that scalar waves actually do kill cancer cells. So, sorry, that is the wire in my throat, excuse me.
It's okay.
So it is very possible, for example, to treat cancer very efficiently via scalar waves. But unfortunately, right now the technology is used against humanity and not to our benefit, unfortunately.
Can you talk about what the scalar technology is? I mean, I've heard scalar bracelets, scalar necklaces, scalar water, scalar this, scalar that. Can you describe it? What they refer to?
I'm not a scalar wave expert, and I'm not technology expert, but what I know is that actually Nikola Tesla, via his experiments, found out that actually anything works with scalar waves is actually the technology of our body, where our bodily functions work with scalar waves, and the how would say the particular trait of this technology is, for example, I know that they used to use more, before electromagnetic, waves to, for example, to beam people to, as I said, to test these directed energy weapons. Nowadays, and that's, as I was just saying, unfortunately, the scalar wave technology is not used for the benefit of people, but for their, destruction. Is that unfortunately these scalar waves, there's no protection possible. They go, for example, somebody can sit in China and you are in Belgium and beam you. They go right through the earth. And they're only, they have been like a really hidden technology. We usually do not know about it, and in school, when you're in your physics class, you're not told about scalar waves.
No, not at all.
I agree. That's right.
No, what we are taught is definitely way outdated and 50 years back. But we're going to be running near the end of the show. I would really like to talk more about where people can find this information before we get cut off at the end of the show, Melanie. But I know there's ISACT, ICAATC.org, and another one is UCACH, UCACH, EUCACH.org as well. And I do encourage everyone to go there and look around and get as much information as you can and pass this information on. It's really, Melanie and others alike are really out there trying to put their best foot forward to try to inform you, everyone at home, on what is really happening in the world. And these are real matters that need real attention and real results. And I really hope you do get your main goal here, Miss Melanie. This is all very overwhelming for myself, and I knew a great deal of this before we started this conversation. Who is, in your opinion? See, here in the States, it's very easy when we feel something big is going on. It's very easy to point the finger because all of our states, we have a uniform government and everything pretty much flows from the top down. But in Europe, who would be doing such a program? Would this be from the pharmaceutical companies? Or I would speculate that the pharmaceutical companies would have to be working in tandem with some sort of agency to make this happen. The pharmaceutical companies, they could be involved with the nanotechnology being put into the inoculations, but surely they can't be the one controlling the matters.
Yes, so definitely the military-industrial complex. I think it's
do you think it's a joint effort, military-wise, in the
yes.
Euronation?
And actually, I read only today that in terms of nanotechnology research, Europe is actually slightly more, advanced than the United States. I mean, it's doing more research. The percentage is higher. So, and we know that, okay, the technology is certainly military technology, and also the secret services have access to it. Just to say that, because we're almost at the end of the show, maybe I should also mention that what often happens when the victims of these, remote influencing technologies, actually, because this is a horrendous crime, when they go to the police and report this crime, as everybody's told to do, what often happens is, well, first of all, the most of the time ridiculed, so it's not taken seriously. But many victims then experience actually also illegal entries into their homes. So a phenomena that we usually call organized stalking, gang stalking, which means groups of people harassing them. And I can say that for my own experience, that once I actually reported this crime and brought them my scanning results, so they couldn't say I was delusional. But then I had various times that my car was vandalized, and when I came home after a short absence, there were holes into my floor, in my parquet, and also in my clothes and shoes, and so this is something, an aspect I think it's also worth mentioning, that because it's something the victims experience, that there's illegal entries into their home and this vandalism done to their possessions, and ransacking the properties.
That's terrible news to hear. It's very unfortunate anytime someone has something profoundly effective happen to them, that there's nowhere to turn. You would think the proper authorities, police, or if you will, you would think they would be helpful, but I in retrospect, I'm sure there's really not much they can do. I'm sure it is scoffed at or laughed at. It's
Melanie, I got to ask this too for Melanie.
Go ahead, John.
If all our listeners out there listening to this really important topic of covert harassment that's going on in the EU, it seems like Europe has made more of a progress than the U.S. has, but what can each individual person do at home to help this cause? If you had one message to give everybody, Melanie, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say, indeed, like the motto of UCAT, just help us save our children from electronic slavery, because it's really, it turns the person into a biological robot, and I don't think any parent would like their child to be a biological robot. So what's important is that you talk about this, issue with your friends, your neighbors, even your physician, to raise awareness for this. Because what people really need to understand is that next time they could go to their doctor, they could suddenly, become a victim and be part of some, scientific experiment they're not even told about. So I think knowledge is power, and it's important that they help us basically inform, other people of this very, very important subject. And I think, only if people are aware of this, then we can have a chance in stopping this criminal programs.
And that's what we need to do. Thank you, Melanie. Joe, I think we still have a little over a minute left, maybe two. I want to ask her anything else?
I don't really have